In a previous video, I showed you my process for creating this digital painting that I submitted to a local art contest. It ended up winning an honorable mention, which earned me $100 and an opportunity to exhibit and sell the painting in an upcoming art show. Today, I'd like to share some of my experience getting this painting printed and show off the quality of the print. This painting was created in Rebelle 6 Pro, and it took about 22 hours to complete. If you're interested in learning more about the painting process, I have a free time-lapse video, or members can watch the longer narrated version which gives an overview of the steps. The aspect ratio I chose for this piece was 16:9, which fits well on a computer display, but can be difficult to print because the dimensions are sort of uncommon. I wasn't able to find many print-on-demand websites that support it. I could have cropped the image, but I didn't want to lose anything. And the triptych options were much more expensive and would have cut off important elements, so I kept looking for a solution that would allow me to print the entire painting. Fortunately, I remembered that there is a print shop in Seattle called Stretch and Staple that creates handcrafted giclée prints, so I gave them a try. Usually I use Costco or an online print-on-demand service, but the quality can be hit or miss, and the craftsmanship is not all that great. Print on demand is convenient, but it can look very factory made. I wanted this print to look like more effort went into it. Stretch and Staple does offer 16:9 printing, and their prices were reasonable, so I felt it was the best solution. I used their online ordering form to select a 36:20 print on a 1.5-inch wrapped canvas with a floating frame, and it ended up being about $287 after tax and a 10% off coupon. I was able to upload a rather large TIFF file, so I didn't have to settle for degrading the color and detail by being forced into using JPEG. The only issue was that I created the painting at a somewhat low resolution, 3840 by 2160, because I wasn't sure what size I would print it at or whether I would even win the contest at all. Plus, I knew I could probably upscale the painting and it would still look pretty good, so I used Adobe Super Resolution first to enlarge it a bit. Some of the thin diagonal lines were noticeably pixelated, so I upscaled again using Rebelle's nanopixel export feature. This fractalizes the details to reduce any jagged edges or aliasing. Now the painting was 10,800 by 6,000, or roughly 3 times larger, which made it able to be printed at 36:20. Had I simply enlarged the painting in Photoshop using bilinear or nearest neighbor, it would have been very blurry and probably would have been rejected by the printer. I'll also mention that by starting the painting smaller, I was able to paint it more quickly and without lag. Had I started the painting at full scale, it probably would have been very slow going, and I may have run into issues where my brush size is maxed out. So just know that in this day and age, you can start a painting small and upscale it later if you use the right software. Stretch and Staple estimated that it would be 6 to 9 business days to produce the print. It ended up being a little over 2 weeks before it was ready. I was able to save on shipping and just pick it up locally in Seattle. The print was handed to me wrapped in plastic. I was able to evaluate the print there at the store, and my first impression was that it looked quite good. There's always the risk that your print will look dark or the colors will be dull or shifted since digital images change a lot when you print them. In this case, I didn't see much of a change aside from the digital version being brighter since it's light being projected rather than pigments reflecting light. That's not to say the painting is dark, it looks as I would expect it to. Normally, I might have ordered a smaller proof first to check the color, but I didn't want to miss out on the art showing, so I needed to get the print done ASAP. On the way out the door, the printer let me know that the silver on the frame was quite delicate and could chip away. Upon closer inspection at home, I can see that it's a handcrafted wood frame with silver leaf painted onto it. It gives it more of a handmade feel as opposed to a mass-produced frame that might be a bit more uniform in terms of how the paint was applied. You can see on the back how the paint was brushed on. It looks a little sloppy from the back and sides, but it looks amazing from the front, so I'm happy. Again, the handmade aesthetic is important to me since I will be the only digital artist in the art show. I want people to see how much work goes into digital art and that it is just as good as traditional art. A hanging wire has also been mounted to the back, and the print hangs nicely. The canvas is stretched tightly so there aren't any ripples or dents. From what I can see on their website, they have a nice large format giclée printer that uses archival inks, and the canvas is hand-coated with a UV protective varnish. It really helps the colors pop, but isn't overly glossy to the point that it obscures the artwork. From a quality standpoint, this is an excellent giclée print. I've paid a lot for canvas prints that don't look nearly as nice. Therefore, I feel comfortable asking $2,500 for this, knowing how much effort went into it from beginning to end. If you look closely, you can see that upscaling the image has its pros and cons. As you can see on the viewing platform, it definitely doesn't have as fine of detail as the digital version, but that's partially because it's been printed with droplets of ink onto a lumpy canvas surface. Upscaling with nanopixel did reduce some of the finer details, but since this is a large print, you'll be viewing it from far away, so that detail would be lost anyway. I'm actually happy the detail was reduced a bit because there were some very fine speckles I painted onto the marsh grass that I wasn't sure I wanted to keep, but I had already merged those layers down and it would have been a chore to manually paint over them. I don't see them at all in the print. In retrospect, I probably overdid it with the fine details considering they wouldn't be reproduced in the print. Another thing I like is that the nanopixel fractal edges really seem to complement the canvas texture. It gives the illusion that the print I applied sort of interacts with the grain of the canvas. You get the impression that the paint flows over or around the lumps in the grain. On some of these close-up shots, you can see that more clearly. It looks very painterly rather than photographic. Had I printed this without using nanopixel, there would be jagged edges that would make the painting look very digital and amateurish. So kudos to Rebelle for adding this feature. Aside from some unnaturally sharp details like on the architecture, the only thing that keeps this from looking like a traditional painting is the lack of paint depth or impasto. One certainly could compensate for this by embellishing the canvas with paint or even clear acrylic gel medium, but I'm happy with it as is. It would be a lot of work to disassemble the frame and add depth to all of the details in this painting. In terms of using Rebelle for this painting, I love how the colors mixed and blended together. In these white flowers, for instance, it looks like blobs of paint rather than pixels. Since this is sort of a special purpose painting, I don't foresee myself selling a lot of prints of this, so I decided to just make this a one-of-a-kind print. Therefore, I didn't sign it digitally, and instead I used the Nuchita paint pen to sign it directly on the printed canvas. That made me nervous that I might ruin the print, but the pen worked well. Overall, I am pleased with the quality of the print from Stretch and Staple. Combined with Rebelle, I can highly recommend this process for anyone who is interested in printing their digital art. The art showing will be coming up in the next month or so. I will try to make a short video while I'm there, and I'll keep you posted on whether or not my painting sells. If you'd like to learn more about digital painting with Rebelle, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.